A dusty Marine Corps base under the relentless Arizona sun, where the air shimmers like a fever dream, and a circle of cocky young recruits erupts in gut-busting laughter at the sight of an old man shuffling forward with what looks like a kid's plastic rifle, its barrel tipped in screaming orange. He's in faded fatigues that hang loose on his wiry frame, eyes hidden behind scratched aviators, and he doesn't flinch at the jeers. Not even when they call him Grandpa Trigger Happy. But as he shoulders that ridiculous thing and squeezes the trigger, the crack echoes like thunder, and 4 kilometers away, a target shatters in a puff of smoke, leaving every jaw on the ground and a general's radio crackling with urgent awe. In that frozen heartbeat, the mockery crumbles, revealing a hero's ghost no one saw coming. Elias Eagle Eye Harlan wasn't always the punchline to a bad joke. He was forged in the hellfire of Vietnam, where the jungle's humid grip choked the life out of men before the bullets could. Back in '68, as a fresh-faced sniper with the 1st Marine Division, he'd perch for days in the rotten-ripe underbrush, mosquitoes feasting on his sweat-soaked skin, the metallic tang of fear sharp on his tongue. His rifle then was no toy, a pristine M40 that whispered death across valleys, each shot a prayer for the brothers he'd never let down. But one monsoon-soaked night, under a sky spitting fire from Charlie's mortars, Elias took that shot that defined him, 2,800 meters through sheets of rain, dropping an enemy spotter who would have wiped out his platoon. The cheers back at base were thunderous, but the cost carved deeper. Nightmares of the faces he couldn't save, the weight of a silver star that felt heavier than lead. And now, decades later, with arthritis gnawing at his knuckles like an old enemy, why would a man like that show up with an orange-tipped relic that screams harmless? The base commander, Colonel Reyes, had invited Elias as a favor, a quiet nod to the old days, hoping the vet could spin yarns for the greenhorns during a morale boost. But as the sun baked the sand into glass, the recruits formed a loose semicircle around the firing line, their tactical vests bulging with fresh ego. "Hey Pops, you aiming for the moon with that squirt gun?" one lance corporal hooted, slapping his buddy's back as the group doubled over, the scent of gun oil and cheap energy drinks hanging thick. Elias just adjusted his hearing aid with a calloused thumb, the orange tip glinting like a defiant flag, and murmured something about keeping it simple. The laughter swelled, a wave crashing over him, but in his mind's eye, he was back in the Nam, the recoil bruising his shoulder, the world narrowing to breath and bead. What if one pull of the trigger could bridge the chasm between yesterday's ghosts and today's doubters? Tension coiled like a spring as Elias settled into the prone, the rifle stock, a custom job from his garage, painted orange to honor a grandson's airsoft dreams, pressing cold against his cheek. The recruit's snickers faded to smirks, bets whispered on how many pumps it'd take before the CO shut this circus down. 4,000 meters? That's sniper myth territory, a distance where wind whispers lies and gravity pulls bullets like anchors. Elias exhaled slow, the dry earth gritty under his elbows, and sighted down the scope, a bargain bin model that fogged with his ragged breath. The general, Brigadier Harlan, no relation, just fate's cruel wink, watched from the observation tower, nursing a lukewarm coffee, dismissing the old-timer as base folklore gone sour. But as Elias's finger curled, the world hushed. The shot rang out, a sonic boom that rattled canteens and set dogs barking miles off. At 4,000 meters, the silhouette target, a mock insurgent on a distant ridge, exploded in a bloom of chalk dust, confirmed by spotters who whooped in disbelief. In that instant, the laughter died, replaced by a stunned silence that tasted like redemption. But what buried pain had Elias carried to prove them wrong? Chaos erupted in the best way. Radios squawked, boots pounded gravel as Marines scrambled to verify, their faces flushed not with mockery now, but a raw, boyish wonder. Colonel Reyes bolted from his office, cigar clenched in teeth, while the general descended the tower like a storm cloud, his stars catching the light. "Who the hell is that?" he barked, but Elias was already rising, joints popping like distant gunfire, the orange rifle slung casual over his shoulder. The recruits encircled him now, apologies tumbling awkward from sunburned lips. "Sir, that was insane." "How?" Elias waved it off with a gravelly chuckle, but his eyes, when he pulled off the aviators, held the storm of Key San, the rice paddy mud caked forever in his soul. He wasn't here for glory, he'd come because his last letter from a dying squad mate had begged him to show these kids what real aim looks like, the kind that saves your ass when the world's on fire. Sacrifice, you see, isn't just the bullet, it's the silence after, the way it echoes in empty rooms. And as the general clasped his hand, recognition dawning like a flare, you wonder, how many heroes fade into jokes before the truth fires back? The general's name was Harlan II, coincidence or cosmic gut punch, and as he stared at Elias, memories flooded in like monsoon waters. A classified briefing from 72 grainy photos of a ghost sniper who'd turned the tide at Firebase Ripcord, racking up kills that saved hundreds, including a green lieutenant who grew up to pin stars. Eagle eye, the general breathed, voice cracking like dry leather, pulling Elias into a bear hug that smelled of aftershave and old cordite. The recruits hung back, eyes wide as saucers, absorbing the shift from ridicule to reverence. Elias pulled a faded photo from his pocket, him and that squad mate, arms slung in the jungle's green haze, grins fierce against the fear, and passed it around, his voice steady but laced with the ache of losses uncounted. This rifle? It's for my boy's boy. Teaches precision without the pull of ghosts. But the shot? That's for all of us who aimed true when it mattered most. Tears pricked unbidden, the sun dipping low to paint the base in gold, and in that circle of young faces, bonds forged quick and deep, handshakes turning to vows, laughter reborn as respect. What if one impossible feat could stitch generations, mending the frayed edges of forgotten valor? Word spread like wildfire across the Corps, Elias's tale hitting briefings and bars from Pendleton to Lejeune, a reminder that legends don't retire, they reload. He stayed on base a week, not as spectacle but mentor, his orange rifle propped casual during late-night talks under star-pricked skies, the chill desert air carrying scents of creosote and campfire. Recruits who'd scoffed now begged for tips, their calluses fresh against his weathered ones, sharing smokes and stories of dads who'd served, uncles lost to the suck. The general pulled strings for a quiet ceremony, pinning a long-overdue commendation to Elias's chest, not for the shot, but for the life behind it, with the old man waving off the fuss, eyes on the horizon where mountains met heaven. Lily, his granddaughter, flew in for the weekend, her airsoft orange-tipped replica in tow, and together they fired blanks at sunset, her giggles mingling with his low rumble of pride. In the end, it wasn't the distance that echoed longest, but the connection, a thread from jungle shadows to sun-baked sands, proving heroes hide in plain sight, waiting for the moment to aim true. And as Elias drove off into the twilight, rifle riding shotgun like a faithful hound, you can't shake the warmth. Sometimes the sharpest shots heal the deepest wounds.